Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, we give all honor, glory, and praise to the Most High God, but now Yahweh. We do so in the name of His only begotten Son, who were ignorantly called Jesus Christ. Real name Yahweh Shai. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Put a one in the chat if you had a good week. Put a two in the chat if you were struggling this week. Difficult. See some ones. Shout out Sakari Peru in the building. Shout out Sakari Peru in the building. It's wild because it's like I got good signal in here, but I mean, it's still, everything is still dragging. Like the server is clogged and cluttered. Yeah, if you can, barbershop. I just remember what question I was gonna ask in the last class. It was, is evolution just an invention of the white man and has no validity? Their version of evolution. We can understand the concept of things developing and progressing, and we can see traits of adaptation. But their concept of evolution, yes, is an invention of the so-called white man. As far as their time frame, saying that the Earth is billions upon billions of years old, yeah, that is all an invention. That is all fabricated and made up. It's we don't agree with that. But again, the concept of one thing developing from an earlier form or earlier stage and growing and developing into something more, sure. Meaning, and when I say sure, yeah, the time frame they made up. When I say sure, a lot of times you guys will hear me say that. Sure. It just means, if you ever hear me say that, it simply means I don't really have anything to contend with that, but with what you just explained does not conflict with my positioning. So sure is cool. I'll let you have that. I can understand, and I don't have to go and try to disprove that as if it compromises my stance or my position on the topic. So yeah. But while we're here, man, I want to address the hug that was heard around the world. All right. Um, he says, so we think the world is less than 10,000 years old. Yes, we think that the world is, no, not less than 10,000, but it's less than 12,000. It's probably over 10,000 at this point. Yeah, man, the hug heard around the world. For some reason, I am just the most disgusting man in the world because I gave Vocab a hug. First of all, some people say that I'm, or take on the position that I'm just one of the most disgusting people in the world just for sitting down with Vocab. You keep hearing these questions come up, and this was long before Vocab ever even sat down with us and talked to us. This was every week when you see me post videos where I'm talking to heathens, I'm talking to Edomites. Why are you even talking to this devil? This is such a shame that you would even sit down and talk to this devil, as if things like this isn't in the Bible. Can you give me Matthew 4th chapter? Let's start from the top. First verse. First verse.
The book of Matthew.
Real quick. What's so funny is that as God is my witness, I did not do that to troll. I didn't do it to troll. I did it for a multitude of reasons, but the top two is challenging vocab to stand on his Christianity. If you're a Christian, then you should extend that love. That's what you guys base this on. And at the beginning of the the first video I posted, which was the beginning of the conversation, he says it. He says, listen, through the love that us as Christians have for you guys and all people for that matter, we don't want you guys to burn in hellfire. So this is our ambition, and this is what drives the mission that we are on, to teach and to bring out the gospel. Cool. I told him, I said, I believe that you feel that way. So in feeling that way, it shouldn't have been a problem with you giving me a hug, and then that's the second part. The hug should have established that whatever is went on, whatever the issue was, leading up to this point, let's not make this discussion about that. And again, that was the first time that he pulled up to us at camp in San Diego. That was the intention. So when he reaches out to Chief to come and have a sit down with us, again, I wanted to establish it on that merit that, listen, I'm not here to, be in any type of beef or any type of, contention with you on a personal level. I don't really care about you on a personal level. I don't know you on a personal level. Like some other people have invested time to learn about you. I don't really care. I don't know that. So don't come to me with that energy. I've never given that to you. Don't give that to me. Let's make sure that this is a respectful conversation. But again, just that alone. Okay, cool there, but you shouldn't have sat down and talked to him at all. Now read Matthew 4 from the top.
The book of Matthew, chapter 4, and verse 1. Then was Jesus led up of the Spirit.
Jesus was led up of the Spirit. So it wasn't just Jesus that was there. The Spirit was upon him when he was doing this. Go ahead.
Into the wilderness.
Into the wilderness to do what?
To be tempted of the devil.
To be tempted of the devil. To have a conversation with the devil. If you're Christ, if you're Jesus, if who the world calls Christ, real name Yahushua, went and did this very thing led by the Spirit, why are y'all having a problem when you see a servant of Yahushua doing the same thing? All right, go ahead.
Verse 2. And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterward and hungry. And when the tempter came to him, he said, if thou be the Son of God. And
listen, and then it says the tempter came to him, right? Vocab came to us. We didn't go out chasing vocab around. Vocab is not some sort of damn, trophy that we have to go and fight for and chase after. No. He reached out to us. I gladly accept it. Why not? Because somebody says he's really just trying to drive home the point that he thinks we're going to hell and will burn in eternal fire. Vocab has a lot of points that he thinks he's right on, but so why not utilize a conversation to address it, or at least to get the entire breakdown as to where he's coming from? Because watch this. I learned a lot of stuff and heard things from vocab that I had never heard, but I've been doing this 15 years. I had never heard no Christians say this type of stuff. Then I'm going around asking other brothers, like, you ever heard this? The inscripturation? That's just, I made a point. I felt like it was a valid point. And he just says, oh yeah, that's just the inscripturation of it, as if that just cleared up whatever contradiction or whatever point I felt like I backed him into a corner with. That's just the inscripturation of it. It's like, wait, what? But in my opinion, this is how they maneuver through things like that, right? Through our confusion. So now that he said it, now that I'm familiar with it, they're not able to do this stuff again. We can bring it to the people. This is where you guys learn. I don't know why people just trip so much, but it's just really exposing a lot of the weirdoisms in Israel. You guys feel like, oh, just because you find out that you're an Israelite, that you can't be a weirdo. No, you could be a weirdo for sure. Still, in these comments, go into the comment section and you'll just see how weird people act for no reason. What's so crazy is that in the beginning, I literally say, by no means does this hug change how I feel. I gave him a hug and then told him how he's not an Israelite, how he's going to serve Israelites in the kingdom of heaven. That's not enough, though. No, you're supposed to tell him what it just doesn't go that way. You just You just mess it up for me. Like, I'm sorry I messed up your little climactical moment that you thought you was going to have vicariously through Sicari and Captain in San Diego. No. Come on, man. You were supposed to curse him out and call him a devil when you... Come on, man. Y'all got plenty of videos of me doing that. It's okay. All right. But having a conversation in itself, we clearly see who the world calls Christ had conversations with a long drawn out conversation. Listen, they were roaming through the city together. Keep reading.
Verse 3 says, and when the tempter came to him, he said, if thou be the Son of God, command that these stones be made bread. But he answered and said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God.
So when this devil was approaching and tempting Yahushua was reminding him of the words of the Most High God. No one can sit here and say we weren't reminding or bringing to light, thus saith the Lord. That was a big part. I don't even know if that was in that first video that I dropped, but that was a big portion of it. Thus saith the Lord. It wasn't because thus saith the Lord kind of came towards the end when the other dude, the Issacharite that was with him, asked, like, what did you guys' take on thus saith the Lord versus, versus the prophets? Vocab actually dropped that video when he was saying that, Paul has authority and then I don't have certain authorities, so on and so forth. That was within that discussion. The devil approached and attempted Christ, and Christ reminded him of thus saith the Lord. We did the very thing. Go ahead.
Verse 5, then the devil taketh him up into the holy city and setteth him on a pinnacle of the temple and saith unto him, if thou be the Son of God, cast thyself down, for it is written, he shall give his angels charge concerning thee, and in their hands shall they bear thee up, lest at any time thou dash thy foot against a stone. And then Jesus said unto them, it is written again, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. Another time reminding the devil of the words of the Most High God. So this stuff is easy. Again, when you read through Matthew, the 4th chapter, they are just roaming from place to place together, going on a whole city tour together. Our Messiah with the devil, and nobody, not once, has ever said, why is Christ even doing this? Why is he even with the what's wrong with you showcase? It's almost as if people are like really intimidated, as if they'd fold and as if they'd buckle when they get in the presence of a devil or the devil. And then, so it's like you stay away from them. The Lord didn't give us that spirit, man. He gave us a spirit of power, of love, and of a sound mind. So it doesn't matter who we stand in front of and who we sit before. We will stand firmly and boldly on the words, wisdom, and the power of the Most High God. It's just that simple and that easy. And I'm very, very comfortable with that too. So I thought that was wild. Give me John 14 and 12. The book of John, chapter 14 and verse 12. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth on me, the works that I do, shall he do also.
So if you believe on a Messiah, if you believe on Christ, it says the works that he does, you will do also. So if Yahushua, or who the world calls Jesus Christ, was tempted and was approached by the devil, then you have to understand that you're going to be approached by the devil as well. Watch this. Even in the book of Sirach, the 2nd chapter, it says, when you come to serve the Lord, prepare your heart for temptation. So you can't be afraid of these things. You can't be intimidated by these things. You have to be prepared for them, and you have to stand boldly on them. So if you could watch the way that I did it, then hopefully that would assist, and hopefully that will be, a tool that you will use to prepare yourself for when you're tempted by the devil, right? Or approached by the devil. How about Shemi Ashar Barakatah? Walk the water, man. Jesus, yes, Lord. Appreciate you all. Hey, absolutely. Listen, and I love being me. Brother said, keep being you, Cap. May the Most High keep rising you up in all your endeavors. The water, brother, I appreciate you. Listen. And I love being me. I want you guys to understand, anybody that was out there that's hating, or anybody that's gonna go and read the comments on these videos, just understand and know, thank you. I appreciate all of these comments, because it is such amusement to me. It brings great joy and laughter to my life to read these comments and to see how pissed off you guys are that I'm sitting here talking about the Bible, defending the very thing you guys say you believe in. That's the craziest stuff in the world, right? But with that being said, a very, very important fact came out during this discussion, and I'm going to show you guys how it played out and where we're going to get into with this. A very, like, as much as I'm saying, like, oh, I was prepared for this, and Christ did this, and it's nothing for us to sit down and just have a conversation. Sharing with you guys what I took from the conversation. That conversation reinforced. I'm talking about, it added a whole nother layer of armor and of defense to what it is that we stand on and what it is that we've been out here teaching, that all of you guys, or most of you guys for that matter, has supported us on. When you sit down and you talk and you have somebody challenge you, you have to go back home and say, okay, what is a response to this? If someone brings something to your attention that you never heard before, okay, is there a response to this? What is to come from these dialogues? Oftentimes you just see a bunch of bantering, loud back and forths, insults thrown, and it really comes down to who can talk the fastest and who can cite versus the fastest. Is that really proving anything? In my opinion, no. And you guys know, for the most part, I always kind of win these dialogues. You know what I'm saying? I always am the one that appears to be the victor when it's just as fast, chatter, chatter, chatter. I've been doing that my whole life. I feel like I can bang with the best of them when it comes to this yapping, right? So oftentimes when I'm looking at it, I'm even critiquing myself to say, did I prove it, or why didn't I finish? A lot of times you guys see a video cut that once I kind of confound the person, catch them up on a point, get them to stutter, get them to kind of hesitate and pause, and then they run off, the video usually ends, right? Sometimes I'll finish the scriptures that I had held, and then we'll end it. But with a sit down like this, where it's calm, where it's just relaxed, and I'm gonna call out vocab on this. It was a nervousness because he just wouldn't stop talking. He just kept powering through any point that I was trying to make, anything that we were trying to slow things down on to address and to get a full understanding on. He just gave us his understanding, and I had no problem with that, because again, I can go home, study this stuff, and just be prepared for it for when somebody else, or when I, possibly have another conversation with him. Key point. This truth that we're out here preaching, to wake up Blacks, Hispanic, and Native Indians to who they really are, the Israelites, is the most important thing in this truth. It is the most important thing to getting to the kingdom. It is the most important thing that we should be doing. And what's so funny is because you start to realize how much effort that these other nations put into trying to disprove the 12 tribes. Oh, that 12 tribes chart ain't shit. Matter of fact, once they try to disprove the chart and that not really getting through to us, then they try to say it doesn't even matter. Then they want to tell us how insignificant it is. But again, when you read this Bible, man, it is so very important. Why isn't there a book of Esau? Because Esau didn't write the Bible. Why we would never, as you have to understand that the Israelites, that the Bible is just a history book or the records of the Israelites' life, throughout their history, from the time that they were brought out of Egypt into the time that the temple was about to be destroyed. So there will be no book of Esau, because Esau is just not that important when it comes to the Israelites' history and life. So yeah, you would never see anything like that. But point is, they try to tell us how unimportant this stuff is, but it is the most important thing, especially when you read this Bible. And oftentimes you guys will hear me say, what gives the Israelites the advantage over anybody that they're having a conversation with in opposition is the fact that we utilize the Old Testament. We utilize the prophecies that God gave to his people. And also we understand that we are these people. So when we read this book, we're reading it and it resonates with us in a totally different manner, in a totally different way. We can see we can clearly understand how it relates to us. We can clearly see and understand how we are these people. I don't need to hear from a Gentile, a self-proclaimed Gentile, as to how to understand my book. Okay. There's no need. There's never no reason for me to seek to a Gentile to understand my book. This is why it's so important. So I'm gonna show you this. I'm gonna show you this clip here. Again, this is a part of the part of the conversation I have not posted yet. Lord willing, I get around to it. Present this and share the screen. Okay, this is where we're at. Boom, boom, boom. Again, this is literally the end of the New Covenant conversation. And the powerful Sergeant Shamar Yashar, Sergeant Major to be exact, he posed this question to Vocab. And again, I had to issue an apology to Sarge, because as you're gonna see, I'm trying to kind of derail Sarge's question, because I knew that the question is going to take us off into another topic. I'm trying my best to stay on topic. We're here to talk about the New Covenant, as we often see at camp, as we often see in debates. You start on one topic and you end off somewhere else, right? Because everything goes together. And it also exposes a thought that I would have, where I'm trying to stay on one topic as if that is necessary, or as if that's beneficial. No, whenever you're talking about one thing, you have to go to this other topic in order to solidify that, to then prove your point back in the original topic. And sometimes you have to do that 2, 3, 4 topics over and then work your way back. As long as you can remember to work your way back, then everything is fine. And me just trying to be different and trying to stay on one topic, don't allow anybody to make you do that. These are things that we're learning from having these conversations in the way in which we did. Don't try, and nobody forced me to do it. This is on my own, recognizance. This is on my own accord to say, I want to stay on topic. It doesn't happen. We utilize this entire Bible for our benefit and for our desired outcome. Here a little and there a little. Right? This is how we're going to get the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the Most High God. So you guys are going to see how I'm trying to answer for Sarge. Sarge, you should know this already. They believe that it just replaces, right? That there's a new Israel. It's a multi-ethnic church that is Israel now, not just a bloodline ethnic Israelite. And it exposes them so much. What'd you have, Gabar?
No, it's like you always say, we have to reverse engineer it.
We got to reverse engineer it back. Right? So even if we bounce off, we got to always, resort back to the original point. And sometimes we have to start at the end and then reverse engineer back to where we got this from. And there's steps to it. And these are beautiful steps though, right? This stuff is found and is rooted in the facts of the Bible. It is, very pivotal, very instrumental in getting the understanding. And this is why the Lord said what he did in Isaiah, the 28th chapter, right? Okay, I got to play this video first. Let me read these. Can white people be saved? If a white person's patrilineal descendancy goes back to that of a so-called Negro, Hispanic, or Native Indian, then yes. If they are just in fact Caucasian through and through, no. And because salvation just does not pertain to them. The reasons for records being kept, the awakening of his lost, absolutely. We all have moments. We all have those moments, bro. Israelites anger each other sometimes. Good job handling that, Cap. All are saved. Salvation doesn't come without repentance. A thief, when caught, must return the goods. Sure. A light unto all nations. As it pertains to what, Israel Grace? Salt of the earth. Mike and Zita just finished 4 of them, but forgot to add the blue cord. Does it have to be braided in with the rest, or can I wrap it around them? You could wrap it around them. It just has to be there. There's no specific pattern Just has to be there. Okay. All right, I'm gonna play this video. I'm gonna play this clip again, just so you understand. But it was very, very important that Sarge asked this question, and let's see their answer. And this is it blows my mind with how they really stand on this, right?
Did you finish?
I'm finished.
This is for Vocab. Good to see you too.
Good to see you, man.
Shut him down. Hey. So this is I'm gonna take it back to the New Testament, right? And the specifications of that. Chaz was going into it in Jeremiah 31, right? With the specifics of the New Testament, it was made for the house of Israel and the house of Judah, right? If we can't see both of these groups in unity today.
I hope you guys can hear it. But Sarge just literally says, when it comes to the house of Israel and the house of Judah and the unity thereof, when it comes to seeing this today, right? He's saying if that's a part of the prophecy that we're clearly going to read, we're going to read it. So don't worry about it. We're going to read it. And then if it says the house of Israel and the house of Judah and the unity of it, how do you guys see this in the world today, right? When it comes to today, where is this at?
Wouldn't that bring into question the implementation, or what's the measure word you guys are using tonight? Inauguration.
Why? If you could clarify why you would say that so that they can give a direct answer to it.
Well, these are the terms. How do we know about what the New Testament is, right? The New Testament is found the terms and specifics of Jeremiah 31 and 31.
Just so you guys understand, the word testament and covenant is interchangeable. They mean the same thing. So even in, Vocab was like, I mean, it's in the New Testament. You know what I'm saying? It was almost like he was validating his point to say that we're in the new covenant because it's read in what was labeled long after the completion of these writings. A portion of the Bible was labeled the New Testament, so therefore it must mean. I was like, man, come on. We can't reason like that, because I can go and take the records and not call it the New Testament. That doesn't mean, and this is where we then get into this conversation of authority. It's like anybody that came after 300 AD doesn't have the authority anymore to say XYZ, which is wild because, the patriarch or the progenitor of their denomination is Martin Luther, who took it upon himself and gave himself authority to scrutinize the Apocrypha and then remove it out of the Bible. They can do stuff like that, but if we try to, you don't have the authority. And I mentioned this on the review the other day where, Dr. Michael Brown asked Chief, why did he race bait? And I said, I don't have a problem with it, but I do recognize where he was coming from, to where if we don't have to race bait, then we shouldn't, so that it eliminate the excuses for people to not listen to us. But in this case, I have to race bait because it's okay if Martin Luther did it, but it's a problem if I do it. The only difference between me and him is that he's white and I'm black. We're both technically believers. Why is it okay for him to go in and scrutinize scrutinize a portion of the text, or the portion of the records that occurred and that was written long before the life of Christ and the apostles? It's okay for him to go and scrutinize and criticize that and then remove it from the text or from the canon. But if I did it, it's a problem. The only difference that I can see, and then someone else can point this out to me, he's white and we're black, Hispanic, and Native Indian. So how do I not pay attention to that part and point that part of that racial discrepancy involved, right?
Says that this is for the house of Israel and the house of Judah. So if today we can't see both of those groups, whoever you want to say they are, under unity, right, as one.
I think I can answer this for you, though.
Oh, yeah?
I know that.
SAR says, if you can't see the northern and the southern kingdom of Israel in unity today, then how can we be in the new covenant when that is a promise of the new covenant, the northern and the southern kingdom joining in unity? You see what I said? I turned around and looked at the vote. I said, I think I can answer this for you, because we understand that they believe in something called replacement theology. We understand and believe that we understand and know that they believe that the church is the new Israel, the multi-ethnic church. It's no longer about bloodline Israel anymore. It's about the believers. So what makes it important for SARS to actually ask this question is because there's a part of this that we've never heard before. We've heard that through Christ that he provides access to be an Israelite. We never heard them say this, though, what they're about to say. So again, I apologize to my brother. I've already told him that. He understands, man. We was up all night last night going into so much of this Bible. And again, through the Spirit was on Sarge when he asked this question. And I thank the Most High that, you know, he has brothers like this beside us, because this is a thing of the body. This is not just individualism here. It's not just about me. No. This is about the entire body of Israel, the entire body of Christ as well. So all praise to the Most High for that.
That a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead. I'm listening. Go ahead.
I mean, I would go first to Ephesians 2. I don't know. What do you think, Anthony? I'd probably tie that in with Galatians 6:16, but there we would have sparks there because you would see it as a redefinition of Israel. Because I'm gonna look at the one new man as Jew and Gentile alike. That's the true Israel. That's the where I would go with that. That'd be the short version. I don't. What would you add to? What would you add to that?
You didn't know. Real quick, because I heard you. I briefly tried to watch a video the other day. You guys said that you guys say that the term replacement theology is not necessarily what you guys like to be labeled, but
critics of
covenantal theology is what you call it.
Or even fulfillment theology.
Fulfillment theology, those, right? So they're pretty much.
They don't use that. So what do they call it?
They're calling it fulfillment theology or covenant theology. They don't call it replacement theology. Am I correct?
Yeah, because it's a fulfillment of what Israel is. It's not replacing Israel. It's what was always supposed to be. Starting back even prior to the Abrahamic promises, actually in
listen, pay attention to what he's saying. It's called fulfillment theology, not replacement theology, because it's a fulfillment of what Israel was always supposed to be. I'm leading up to it because when you hear him say it, it's like, you're telling me that Israel was always supposed to be just this? What? I'm deliberately not saying it because I want you guys to hear it. I want y'all to just be as shocked as this whole room was when they said it.
Genesis 3. Where would you go? And I'm curious if what would you add to what he just said? He
said, like, going back to Genesis 3. Get Genesis 3:15. This is what they always do. Genesis 3:15. Her seed, right? Because Israel was always just supposed to be this. Go ahead.
Genesis chapter 3 and verse 15. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman.
I will put enmity between thee and the woman. Talking about the serpent and the woman, the devil and the woman. He's going to put, the Most High is going to put enmity. He's going to stir up a problem. Read.
And between thy seed.
And between the seed of the serpent. Go ahead.
And her seed.
And her seed. Go ahead.
It shall bruise thy head.
It shall bruise thy head. Go ahead.
And thou shalt bruise his heel.
And thou shalt bruise his heel. What the hell does that have to do with what Israel was ultimately supposed to be? There's nothing else in Genesis 3 that's talking about this. But they get to they say something, they say it fast, they say it quick. And again, if I go and start wait, what do you mean about Genesis 3? You see how now it's going to start taking us off topic? So if I want to stay on topic, I'm ignoring it. But I'm realizing, no, we're addressing everything. If it means that the conversation's got to go on for 3 months, then that means the conversation's got to go on for 3 months. Because every detail matters. And if we're not addressing these things, then we're allowing a platform to be laid, which I don't really think is going to make much of a difference, because like I always tell you guys, it's a 12-round bout. Don't worry about it. It will run out. They will exhaust themselves. This road will come to an end. So either way, but I know as far as myself, for the most part, if I know that there's a point that I'm trying to get to, I still might ignore certain stuff, but I'm not going to hesitate to branch off to make my point.
Or his question, because it's a valid question. And by the way, there's Christians who would agree with you, by the way. They would take it in a more literal sense. Now, obviously, they would disagree about the group, but like a dispensationalist Christian would probably actually have a lot more agreement, at least certain dispensationalists, to what you said. But what would you add?
Yeah, so I would affirm all that and say, there are certainly
sound like the clear eye guy.
Watching TV, not wasting time, but watching TV and my little home pod will go off. I'm like, the heck was
your what?
there? A HomePod. It's like
You mean like an
Apple
Alexa?
Like Alexa?
Yeah, it's like an Alexa.
How old are you? A HomePod?
Ancient technology.
Okay, go ahead.
Anyways, so obviously there were people from the tribe of Judah who believed in the first century, and I think there were Israelites. You have in even the gospel, there's the Samaritan woman, for example, who is understood to be a well,
Descendant of the Northern Kingdom, perhaps.
yeah,
And then the gal from, what is it, Dan or Asher?
yeah. So I do think you see that the inclusion of Jews, Judah, and Israel in the new covenant. But I would take it overall as
Yep, and I'm muted. Ain't that wild? They missed the question. Who could showcase how they missed the question, right? Because only thing that they did was they pointed out the Samaritan woman being from the Northern Kingdom, and then they pointed out, which was she didn't even really say. Just yeah, I caught that I was muted. It didn't really say, and then points out that there's another part where it speaks about the Asherite. See, we can see there that both Judah and Israel, they're included in the new covenant. So yeah. What is it about their response that showcases they missed the question that Sarge asked? Yeah, that they're in unity. No, I would say that they missed it. Listen, I would say that they missed it and ducked it. Like, you know what I mean? Either way, damn if they missed it, damn if they ducked it. It don't matter. Either way, that they're in unity. Not whether or not the new covenant was extended to them and whether or not they had opportunity to take hold of it. No. Where does it say that they were unified? That's the promise of the new covenant. Not that the Northern Kingdom will have access to the new covenant, not that the Northern Kingdom would be included in it, but that in the new covenant, the Northern Kingdom will be unified, that they will be brought back together. No more two nations, no more two kingdoms, but they will have one fold and one shepherd, one king. It literally says it. Okay, hold on. So yeah, I appreciate that you submitted your super chat question. But I can't stop what I'm doing just to go and address Ephesians 5. I will do that later. Okay. So just a little patience, just a little. All right. It talks about them being unified. Listen, and of one mind. This is you guys have to understand that the new covenant is the literal reversal of punishments that the old covenant put the Israelites under. And that's really the difference between the old covenant and the new covenant. The old covenant had blessings and curses. The new covenant don't have curses. Why? Why don't the new covenant have curses in it?
Because it's written on our hearts.
Correct. But what else? It's a stipulation of the new covenant that we don't need the curses. Because God says that he's going to forgive us of all our sins. He says, and I'm going to do thee good, and I'm not going to do harm unto you. In the old covenant, he says, the only way that I will do harm is if you do X, Y, Z. That's not in the new covenant. That's not a part of the terms of the new covenant. We won't sin, so we don't need it. And then us not sinning is a result of it being written on our hearts, right? But they missed it, and they didn't even address it. They just pointed out how we can see in what is called the New Testament writings that there are Northern Kingdom who were included or who were ministered to. Okay, cool. That doesn't answer the question.
The reality that's being called for that constitutes one a true Israelite is the new heart. And that's what Paul's pointing out in Romans 2. The true Israelite is the one who has the circumcision of the heart. The one who merely has circumcision outwardly but doesn't keep the law isn't what was called for. But one thing I'd point out is, so in Isaiah 40 through 55, you've got this section of Isaiah where he's talking about God doing something better in the future than what happened in the past. He describes it in Exodus terms. So the idea is it's a new Exodus, a better Exodus, a new redemption. In the context of this, and you guys will remember the start of it, it says, a voice of one crying in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord. All the gospel writers quote this. So when Jesus comes, it's the beginning of the fulfillment of all this. In that context, it talks about a servant who's going to come. In some cases, it mentions the word servant, and it's referring to Israel. Israel is God's servant.
So he goes to Isaiah 49, where it talks about, the servant of God, and earlier in the chapters of Isaiah, it says that the servants of the Most High is Israel. But then when you get to the 49th chapter, it speaks about the servant, and how it's a light thing for this servant to raise up the outcasts of Israel and the dispersed of Judah. And we understand and clearly know that that's talking about who the world calls Christ. Watch how they spin this. Okay, watch how they take something like that, and he's gonna ask the question, or he's gonna pose the rhetorical question. Well, how can Israel save Israel? Right? And then he's going to proceed and go further to say that Israel saved Israel. Watch how he falls on his own sword.
But in other cases, the servant is an individual. So, for example, in Isaiah 49, it says that it's talking about my servant, and he says, I will use you to save my people Israel, or Judah. So how do you have Israel saving Israel? The idea is, here's a figure who is called Israel.
What are you quoting?
Isaiah 49
and 6, right?
It's kind of like the idea of the name itself comes from Jacob, right? So it's used originally for an individual, Israel, but then it also comes to refer to all of his natural descendants. Well, Isaiah is doing something similar, but now he's talking about some other Israelite as Israel, the quintessence of Israel. He's the embodiment of everything Israel should be. And then, so here's our basic idea. This is something that vocab is getting at. Since he's the true Israel, everyone who's in him is Israel. He said, I am the vine, you are the branches. So anyone who's a branch of the vine is properly identified as part of the vine. It's the same idea as Paul's getting at in Romans 11 when he talks about branches being grafted in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in this way that we think ultimately God is saving Judah and Israel.
Yeah, we understand your position on that, but does that address? Yeah, I was saying, does that address?
It really doesn't,
Right.
because they're standing on, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are standing on the fact that the inauguration has happened already. You stand on that, vocab?
Yeah.
It's happened. How are you? So the only way you could stand on that, right? Do you too, Anthony, stand on that? The inauguration has happened. So you guys must clearly know who the house of Judah is and the house of Israel, and you guys see the unity. You have to be able to identify.
No. They're just saying it's believers. If the believers or the church,
which includes people from Judah and Israel.
yeah, they're just gonna associate it with the believers. So this will be something that, again, for us takes us away from it, because one of the tenets of the new covenant is that the northern and the southern kingdom will be brought back together. I mean, watch this. As it pertains to Ezekiel the 37th chapter, which says, neither shall you be divided into two nations anymore, neither shall you be divided into two kingdoms. A Jew and Gentile is not two nations. Gentile is a bunch of nations. So clearly it's talking about, and this takes us off into, a different topic, but that reunification is important for the tenets of the new covenant, because no more are there going to be two nations, no more are there going to be two kingdoms. It's the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judah. That's why Jeremiah 31, which I'm quoting Ezekiel 37, but this is why Jeremiah 31 and Hebrews says, I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. As you guys always say, he could have easily just said, I will make a new covenant with all the believers. I can make a new covenant with the Christians. I will make a new covenant with XYZ. But he doesn't.
I do think it does say those sorts of things. That Jeremiah 31, Ezekiel 36, these aren't the only passages that speak to this. But one thing is when you go.
But if you guys, what do you guys how do you guys assess and how you guys explain? Neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms or two nations anymore at all, that were defiled because of their idolatry and their idol worship.
The God's people will be unified, like Ephesians 2. The key though is to see
But
Christ.
you know, we take the position that Ephesians 2 is talking about.
Yeah, of course. I understand there'll be a difference. The key though for us for that is something I probably should emphasize more is
I'm pausing it and I'm talking and I'm muted, right? I'm muted. Listen, you hear what he says. He says we have, and we probably should address this more. You want to know why he has to address this more? Because he never said, nobody ever says this, what he's about to say. We always hear that the believers make up the church and they replace ethnic Israel. It's the multi-ethnic church. We understand that. We've heard this before. But you see when he turned around and he goes, we should probably emphasize this a lot more. Yes, because they've been having this card held in a back pocket for the longest, that if anytime somebody calls them out on a prophecy that does not make any sense as it pertains to their take on it and their interpretation and doctrine, they get to pull this out. And then they start saying, oh, we should emphasize this a lot more later. What he's about to say, that should be first that y'all talk about. That should be most important. I've never heard them say this before. Watch this. God, I'm staying off mute, so I ain't even got to worry about keep talking and I'm muted. Chief does it all the time, and I'm always criticizing him. Now I'm doing it.
Is to see Christ as Israel. That's the end. Is something I probably should emphasize more is to see Christ as Israel. That's something I probably should emphasize more is to see Christ as Israel. For us, for that something I probably should emphasize more is to see Christ as Israel. That
he said we have to see Christ as Israel. So remember Anthony Rogers, which is a person talking off camera, the one that said we were shucking and jiving, right? He says, just so you guys understand and know who he is, he says, well, you'll ask yourself when you read Isaiah 49, well, how does Israel save Israel? So if we have to see Christ as Israel, Christ is clearly the savior for Israel. So that means Israel saving Israel. It doesn't make any sense. That right there doesn't make any sense. He's literally telling us, in order for us to understand the prophecy of the new covenant, in order for us to understand the prophecy of Israel and the northern and southern kingdom come together, it's just put it on Christ. It's the best way I know how to explain it is, I mean, just look at it as Christ. All right. Just look at it as Christ. That is, to me, that is such a cop-out. There is too much of this Bible that talks about the reunification of the nation. You have to understand something. These are literal people that were scattered. These are literal nations that were split. These are literal descendants that were put into slavery under people as a direct result of what their forefathers did, or even they themselves. How is it that I sin, I get punished for it, and then I'm somehow smudged and wiped out and just simply regarded as this one man? And then tried to say that this is as a result of what Israel was always supposed to be, or who Israel was always supposed to be, going back to Genesis, the 3rd chapter, those things don't even connect with each other. Those things don't even connect with each other. Who Israel was always supposed to be. No. Them. That's the point. According to who? According to them. We have to look at this as Israel. And I'm going to show you guys, as we go and reread Ezekiel 37 chapter, we're going to insert that these people are Christ, and we're going to see if this makes sense. All we have to, that's why I said it's a 12 round bout. When they give you the explanation, you just roll with them. I remember I've seen a comment. Somebody said, Captain, did you just say you're walking with them? Yeah, I'm walking with them to showcase or to point out when their road ends, when their road gets confusing, when there's now a fork in the road and there's no way to determine which way to go because it's just that confusing. Walk with them and see if it pans out, and do the same with us. Walk with us and see if this stuff pans out. See the church, see Israel as Christ.
For that is how is, something I probably should emphasize more is to see Christ as Israel. That's the end. So one brief example of that is in Matthew when he says this fulfills prophet Hosea, out of Egypt I have called my son. But when you read Hosea, it's talking about actual Israel. And then Matthew applies that to Jesus.
But you see how they do that though? In the New Testament, the writers, the apostles, the disciples, Christ himself, they will quote something, right? They'll like almost to say, what's something that we do, right? What's something that we do? We all like first thing that comes to mind is like, Job 9:20. If I justify myself, my own mouth shall condemn me, right? When you see people start trying to lie and justify BS that they do, and they get caught up, and you see how you caught yourself up. See that's Jeremiah. That's Job 9:20. If I justify myself, my own mouth shall condemn me. Like, is that like some sort of fulfillment of no? But we can clearly see that what you just did here has been written in the Bible before. It doesn't mean it's a fulfillment of some sort of prophecy, but they do this a lot. So if we clearly read in Hosea where it's talking about Israel, but then it says, see, as it is written, I shall call my son out of Egypt, meaning Christ came out of Egypt. Cool. That doesn't make Christ Israel. You have to make it that. The passage does not say that. The passage is just giving you reference as to the fact that Christ came out of out of Egypt. Hey, the scriptures speak about, the scripture even mentions how we would come out of out of Egypt, I'm sorry. And we have to acknowledge and recognize Christ is an Israelite. Why does Christ have to represent all of Israel when he himself just is an Israelite? He does this a lot, or they do this a lot. Every prophecy that he thought was fulfilled that makes us in the beginning stages of the new covenant, still in it, is them pointing out how people reference these scriptures. Did not say this is a fulfillment of it. Please don't do that, because that just makes the scriptures a lie. It just makes the scriptures a lie. Let's keep.
Jesus literally calling Jesus Israel.
See that? It did not call Jesus Israel. It just didn't. And I would love for situations like this for them to actually read it so we can hear it instead of them just quoting it real fast and moving on. But again, it went the way that it did. We keep seeing how they're doing this. That's just not the truth.
An example of this direct application of seeing Jesus as the true Israel, more than even just the true Israelite, the true Israel. So that's a biblical motif, and he brought it out from the Old Covenant in Isaiah as well. So those who are in Christ, then that way. So we would have a pretty big gap in our views.
You see that? We'd have a pretty big gap in our views, and we're going to go into why there's such a huge gap, because this does not make any sense when we apply it. It's okay to hear their argument, hear them out, so that all you have to do is take what they said and plug it into the Bible and into the prophecy. Let's take what you just said and let's plug it into prophecy. Let's see if it makes sense. Just because a situation happened later on where somebody said, oh, look, Christ comes out of Egypt. The Bible said that Israel will come out of Egypt. See? So the way they're interpreting is that's literally the Bible calling Christ Israel. Okay, cool. Let's take that concept that now Christ represents Israel. The whole time when the prophets was given their vision from the Most High, when the prophets was speaking, thus saith the Lord, they meant Christ this whole time. So all we got to do is take Christ, plug it into that, and it should fit, right? If that's the proper understanding, that's how we reverse engineer. We take the end of it and what you're telling me it means, and then we just walk it backwards to the actual prophecy, and where we get this idea. It should always fit. This is the beauty of hermeneutics. This is the beauty of exegesis. This is a beauty of rightly dividing the word of truth. If I have an answer for something, all you have to do is take my answer and insert it into the Bible, and let's see if it fits. If it doesn't, then you must acquit. Okay, man.
Who's of that? Because I understand your perspective of the question. From your perspective, that's a good question to ask.
Watch this. Watch what
that's where the gap would come
what
in.
you about to say.
So you probably feel like these guys aren't answering the question. Because
you probably feel like these guys aren't answering the question because you didn't. But in all actuality, you did. He answered the question. He just didn't answer it according to what we know the Bible says. And I'm saying that. I told him, I could vouch that you answered it, but watch what I'm about to say.
No, they are.
Which I understand.
Yeah,
which I understand why you.
Like your understanding, full understanding your guys' ideology.
So, I'm gonna tell you this. I can validate that you guys are answering the question because I'm familiar with the concept that you guys are explaining to us. But this is one of the things I did want to come out of this, and was really one of the reasons why I wasn't trying to just move on so fast earlier, because for the audience, who Israel is going to be a big factor in determining understanding of doctrine. You know what I'm saying? If you take the position that Christ is Israel and that anybody in Christ can be Israel, not biologically or ethnically, right? Or being a direct descendant from Jacob, then being in the new covenant makes a whole lot more sense. Who salvation is for and how it's all going to play out, and the fulfillment and the teleos of this makes a whole lot more sense. But if we don't agree with that, you see how it puts us so far away. And you just mentioned that big gap. So this is one point that we could point out to say
that might be an impasse.
It's definitely an impasse right there. You see what I'm saying? This is might be, huh? No, this clearly is. Right. It definitely understand it. So
he's not able to join. So
this is a serious impasse. There is no way, and this also points out, there's no way Christians and Israelites will ever even remotely be in the same arena when it comes to the viewpoint of the Bible. They feel that Christ just represents Israel, and then anybody that believes in Christ is now a part of Israel, is now a seed of Abraham, and a true Jew by believing. And I'm going to show you guys how that just makes absolutely zero sense, right? Let's get Ezekiel the 37th chapter, and we're going to start from the top. All right, the very first verse.
So I was looking up, did Jesus quote Hosea, and he only quotes him in Hosea 6:6, where he says he desires mercy and sacrifice. So where does he? I'm trying to understand where he gets the Israel is Christ in Hosea.
I'll find it.
You want it from the top though?
Hold on. Boom. Hold on real quick. It's Hosea 11:1 that he's talking about. And then let's find what they're contrasting it with. Matthew 2:15. And was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken of the Lord by the prophet, saying, out of Egypt have I called my son. And here's my thing, even right there where it says that it might be fulfilled. Here's my thing. This is what we literally got into this argument, right? Because this is what they try to say, that the author can determine the authority as to what things really meant, right? If Matthew is saying that Christ coming out of Egypt fulfills Hosea, right? Let's read Hosea. Go to Hosea 11:1, right?
The book of Hosea, chapter 11, and verse 1. When Israel was a child, then I loved him and called him my son out of Egypt.
Hold on. Then when Israel was young, I called him out of Egypt and called him my son. Christ has been the son from the beginning. These two things off bat don't even match with each other, right? But because Matthew is saying, see, this is the fulfillment of it, they're saying Matthew has this authority, he has the Spirit, and this is really what it means. And it's like, for somebody that knows a prophecy, it's like, no, that's not what that's talking about. Go ahead.
As they called them, so they went from them. They sacrificed them to Baalim and burned incense to graven images. I taught Ephraim also.
No, my bad. Go back. Read one again, because I'm trying to get to Hosea. My bad. Hosea 11:1. Go ahead.
Book of Hosea 11 and verse 1. When Israel was a child, then I loved him and called him my son out of Egypt. As they called them.
As they called them. Go ahead.
So they went from them.
So they went from them. Read.
They sacrificed unto Baalim.
So how do we take this literal description, right? And here's my thing. This is not a prophecy to be fulfilled. This is descriptive. This is the very thing that they always want to tell us. Like, oh, see, there's prescriptive and then there's descriptive. This is the Lord describing something. This is not a prophecy. But oh, when we get to Matthew the 2nd chapter, see, this is to fulfill. This is the fulfillment of that prophecy. I called my son out of Egypt. See, this is literally the Bible calling Christ Israel. Again, if that makes sense, if it makes sense in Hosea and Matthew, it should make sense in Ezekiel as well. This is what we're contending. So if somebody says, oh, see, Cap, it says fulfill, so don't say, oh, now you want to backtrack. No, all I'm saying is, okay, I'm going to take that. I'm disagreeing with you, but I'm going to say, I'm going to not disagree for the sake of, let's see if it starts to play out and harmonize with the rest of the Bible. If it's calling Christ Israel, it should match with everything else. Keep reading. Because it says, and they called them, and so they went from them, they sacrificed unto Baal. So Yahushua was sacrificing unto Baal as he was called out of Egypt? Go ahead.
And burned incense to graven images.
Christ was sacrificing and burning incense to the graven images? Was that fulfilled? You see how it's like, oh, see, it's this part where this is a fulfillment. Stop playing with those that understand and know better. You guys can't create this doctrine around this. But watch this. Hey, let me be wrong. Let God be true, but Captain Tazama always be wrong. Cool. Keep reading.
It says, I taught Ephraim also to go, taking them by their arms, but they knew not that I healed them. Again,
it's starting to go into other things. Give me Ezekiel 37 from the top. If Christ is Israel, let's see if it matches.
Book of Ezekiel, chapter 37 and verse 1. The hand of the Lord was upon me and carried me out in the spirit of the Lord.
The hand of the Lord was upon me and carried me out in the spirit of the Lord, right? The spirit is on Ezekiel. Read.
And set me down in the midst of the valley, which was full of bones.
Ezekiel's in the midst of this valley full of bones. We're going to see who these bones are later. Go ahead.
And caused me to pass by them round about. And behold, there were very many in the open valley. And lo, they were very dry.
These bones were many in the valley and they were dry. Go ahead.
And he said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live?
Read.
And I answered, O Lord God, thou knowest.
Thou knowest. Now, mind you here, the bones are the ones that are in question of whether or not they can live, right? Now, watch this. How do we achieve this life? Through who? Through who the world calls Christ. But according to the Christian doctrine, they're saying that these bones are Christ. I'm going to show you why I'm saying that. Keep reading.
Again, he said unto me, prophesy upon
Real quick. Start back at verse 4. But again, here's the point. The Christians are saying that these bones are Christ, but then they're also saying that through Christ is how we even achieve these bones being able to live. So you see how it said Israel saving Israel? It doesn't make any sense. Go ahead. Verse 4.
Again he said unto me, prophesy upon these bones, and say unto them, O ye dry bones, hear the word of the Lord.
Wait. Who also told us to hear the word of the Lord? Christ. but Christ is supposed to be telling these bones to hear the word of the Lord, but these bones are supposed to be Christ as well. So Christ is talking to himself, which goes back to the whole Trinity question. So what? If Christ is God, that means when he was down here praying, that means he was praying to himself. But no, we got to remember that they believe in three distinct persons, right? Three distinct persons, co-eternal, co-equal. The point of me bringing that out was it's multiple times within the Christian doctrine where you have to pose these questions and say, what, he's just doing all of this stuff to himself? It's not making any sense. Keep reading.
Verse 5, thus saith the Lord God unto these bones, behold, I will cause breath to enter into you, and ye shall live.
Watch this, John 6:63, right? The spirit is the spirit quickeneth, right? It's the words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life. But it's from Christ that's doing this to the bones. So how can Christ be the bones and the one administering the spirit, the breath, and the words of God? Go ahead.
And I will lay sinews upon you, and will bring up flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and ye shall live, and ye shall know that I am the Lord.
Go ahead.
So I prophesied as I was commanded, and as I prophesied there was a noise, and behold a shaking, and the bones came together, bone to his bone.
Watch this. You see that? Bone to his bone. Why is also this is important? Not just because it totally counters the position that vocab and their side put down, but watch this. It showcases the importance of the reunification of Israel. Bone to his bone. Where do we see this phraseology? We see it in Genesis, the 2nd chapter, when Adam took Eve as a wife, right? You are now bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. We also see Laban say this to Jacob. You are now bone of my bone. There's other places in the Bible as well, but it's always talking about in reference to family, like kinship, right? So all of these bones in this valley, dead and dry, and their ability to live is them hearing the word of God and the spirit entering into them and the breath entering to them so that they live. And it says they join themselves together, bone to their bone. This is reunification of northern and southern kingdom, and also the dispersed and outcast of both kingdoms, because there was conflicts within the southern kingdom, not just southern versus north. No, there was issues among southern kingdoms. And we read about this in Acts of 6th chapter, right? If you didn't speak Hebrew, it was a problem. You could know that you were a Jew, but they treated you differently if you didn't speak Hebrew and if you spoke Greek, right? Give me Nehemiah 13, Shashan. Give me Nehemiah 13, start at 23.
Look at Nehemiah chapter 13, verse 23. In those days also saw I Jews that had married wives of Ashdod.
Listen, these Jews, these southern kingdom Israelites, married women of other nations. Go ahead. Of Ashdod, read.
Of
Ammon.
And Moab.
These are heathens. They took heathen women. Read.
And their children spake half in the speech of Ashdod.
They spoke half in the speech of Ashdod. Read.
And could not speak in the Jews' language.
And they could not speak the Jews' language. So let's see what they did to these children that couldn't speak the Jews' language. Read.
But according to the language of each people, and contended with them, and cursed, and I contended with them.
It says, and they cursed these people, or contended with these people, and did what?
And cursed them.
And cursed them. Go ahead.
And smote certain of them.
And they even smote some of them. This is and we don't never harp on this stuff as it pertains to the perspective that the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the Essenes, the Zealots, and all of these people had towards these Greek-speaking Israelites, and even those who totally denounce the Israelite identity and practice. Their Jewry. When there was those that completely put those things away, but then there was those who still understood that they were Jews, but then they spoke white. They talk like some white boys. They talk like some Greeks. And even though both the Greek-speaking Jew and the Hebrew-speaking Jew, they both believe in Christ and they were supposed to be unified together, there was still an issue. So there was Judah on Judah issues, there was Israel on Israel issues, and then there was Judah versus Israel, Israel versus Judah, right? The envy of Judah and the vexation of Ephraim. Man, like this stuff is clearly written in the Bible. So when we're reading Ezekiel, the 37th chapter, that through Christ, who they're saying is the bones, which doesn't make no sense. I'm not going to keep harping on that to confuse people. It doesn't make sense already. But they were supposed to join themselves together, bone of their bone, right? Keep reading.
Verse 8, and when I beheld, lo, the sinews and the flesh came up upon them, and the skin covered them above, but there was no breath in them.
So they're coming together. They're joining themselves together. It says what? But there's no breath in them. Who knows what that breath is that's not in them? It's what? Spirit of life? It's the laws, right? Somebody give me Wisdom of Solomon 7. and then Shashan get Deuteronomy 4. That listen, it says they joined themselves together, but there was no breath in them, right? Because what? When we go out here and when we teach our people that Blacks, Hispanic, and Native Indians are the Israelite, you can see through the camps of the unification of Israel. But guess what? We still don't have these laws in our inward parts, right? We got the knowledge of it, and we're trying to exercise these things because that's necessary for us to return to the Lord so he can unlock the promises. And once he unlocks the promises, that's when we're going to get this breath, which is the law written in our inward parts. I mean, this stuff is like, it's super duper easy and clear, but you got to know the Bible in order to know how to piece these things together. I'm going to show you. Wisdom of Solomon.
From the top.
7 and 24. We're going to read 24 and 25.
Book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 24.
Uh-huh.
For wisdom is more moving than any motion.
Wisdom is more moving than any motion. Read.
She passeth and goeth through all things.
She passes and goes through all things. Go ahead.
By reason of her pureness.
By reason of her pureness. Go ahead.
For she is the breath of power.
She is the breath of the power
of God.
Of God. The breath of God is wisdom. Go ahead.
And a pure influence flowing from the glory of the Almighty.
And a pure influence flowing from the glory of the Almighty. So we understand that the breath of God is wisdom. Let's see what our wisdom is that we got from God, right? Deuteronomy 4 and, I'm talking about 5, right? Go ahead.
Look at Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 5. Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Lord my God commanded me.
I've taught you statutes and judgment, even as the Lord our God commanded Moses to teach us. Read.
That you should do so in the land whither you go to possess it.
Do these commandments in the land that you're going to go and possess. Why? Go ahead.
Keep therefore and do them. For this is your wisdom.
This is your wisdom. So the bones are gathering themselves together. Flesh has come upon them. Sinews has come upon them. It says they were covered up top. Did I hear that the correct way?
Yeah.
And I will bring flesh upon you and cover you with skins and put breath in you, and ye shall live. You shall know that I'm the Lord. Hold on, we got to go up. Behold, I will cause breath to enter into you, and you shall live. And I will lay sinews upon you and bring up flesh upon you and cover you with skin and put breath in you, you shall live. Great noise. Watch this. Listen, watch this. Watch this. And when I beheld, lo, the sinews and the flesh came upon them, and skins covered them above, but there was no breath in them. What does it mean that the skins covered them above? Who knows what it means that the skins covered them above? You're hilarious. That was hilarious. I'm glad you whispered that. Right? I think he's on to something, right? Listen, if you're only covered above, then what's exposed? Below, which is your private area, which is you still have shame. You have no breath and they're still, and your shame is still being exposed. You have no breath in you, and your shame is still being exposed yet, but we still are developing a covering. We're working our way back to being fully covered. Right? What's your precept? Oh, when it says I will lift up the skirt?
Nah. The book of Exodus, chapter 32 and verse 25. And when Moses saw that the people were naked, for Aaron had made them naked unto their shame among their enemies. But the context is when they built the golden calf and they made them naked.
Thank you. Because we're still dealing with this idolatry. We're still dealing, and again, later on in the chapter, it's going to speak about when that shame is going to be taken away, when our idolatry is taken away. Beautiful precept. Read it again and quote it louder.
I'm going to read from 23.
Go ahead.
Exodus chapter 32 and verse 23. For they said unto me, make us gods, which shall go before us. For as for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we wot not what is become of him. And I said unto them, whosoever hath any gold, let them break it off. So they gave it me. Then I cast it into the fire, and there came out this calf. And when Moses saw that the people were naked, for Aaron had made them naked unto their shame.
Unto their shame, go ahead.
Among their enemies.
Among their enemies. And this is literally the very thing that's happening to us. In the places that we were scattered to as a punishment, where our shame is being exposed and our shame is being blasted everywhere, right? Is the place in which we are suffering from idolatry and lawlessness, right? In the place where they're telling us it's okay, and you're almost a weirdo for even attempting to keep God's laws, right? How does a Christian explain Ezekiel the 37th chapter? Because it's in scripture. That's just the inscripturation of it, right? They get to just say stuff like that to us, and we just got to accept it. Point of the matter is, great precept showcasing that our idolatry contributes to our shame, right? To our nakedness, but we were only covered up top, right? And when you go into that word above in Ezekiel 37:8, it literally says the higher part, the upper part, right? Above. On top of, above, on higher ground. That was the usage. The definition says the upper part used only adverbially with prefix upward, above, overhead, from the top, above, exceeding, forward, on, high, over, up. They covered the upper parts, but our shame was still exposed. Why? Because we had not the breath. It was promised that we will receive the breath. And we understand, we know what that breath is, which is the wisdom of the Most High God. And the wisdom of the Most High God is what? The law, statutes, and commandments. That was it on that? Go back to Ezekiel 37.
Book of Ezekiel, chapter 37 and verse 9. Then said he unto me, prophesy.
Watch this. Excuse me. Again, the skins covered them above, but there was no breath in them. Still shameful, still lawlessness, still polluted with idols. Verse 9.
Verse 9. Then said he unto me, prophesy unto the wind. Prophesy, son of man, and say to the wind, thus saith the Lord God. Come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe upon these slain, that they may live.
Keep reading.
So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them, and they lived, and stood upon their feet, an exceeding great army.
Is the army of Israel established yet? Hell no. That's how we know that they don't have the breath, and that's how we know that their shame has not been taken away from them. Again, this is a prophecy, right? So it says, and they stood upon their feet, an exceeding great army. Let's see who this exceeding great army is. Read.
Then he said unto me, son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel.
These bones are the whole house of Israel. These bones is Jesus Christ. This is so clear, right? This is so clear. This is what they'll tell us. These bones are Jesus Christ. Now let's see how this makes sense later on in the chapter, where it starts to talk about, where it actually starts to talk about Jesus Christ, right? Remember, the bones are the whole house of Israel, and Christians will tell us that's Jesus. Keep reading.
It says, behold, they say our bones are dried and our hope is lost. We are cut off for our parts.
And here's the thing. Remember, he just mentioned, he says Ephesians, the second chapter. Ephesians, the second chapter, talks about the middle wall of partition being broken down. And they try to say, see, that's Jew and Gentile. Stop. That's Israel and Gentiles. Stop. No, that's northern and southern kingdom, because it literally says at that time you were without hope. You were out. You were aliens from the Commonwealth of Israel, without Christ in the world, and you were without hope. Clearly, right here it says the whole house of Israel, right, are these bones, and they're all dried, and their hope is lost. We are cut off for our parts, right? All the things that we're doing is how we have been separated from the Most High God. This is how we have been given the back of the Lord, instead of, as Numbers the 6th chapter says, what? Let your face and your countenance shine upon us. That was all taken away for our wicked idolatry, our nakedness, our shame. Keep reading.
Verse 12, therefore prophesy and say unto them, thus saith the Lord God, behold, O my people, I will open your graves and cause you to come up out of your graves and bring you into the land of Israel.
Christ was already in the land of Israel. Christ was already in the land of Israel. Stuff doesn't make any sense, but this is prophesied. This is new covenant.
Right.
This is all new covenant. The bone of these dry bones rising up, being caused to live, being joined together, bone of bone, flesh of flesh, the breath entering in unto them, being totally covered, shame being taken away, right? And being unified. This is all new covenant. How is this talking about Christ? How? But again, for us, so I'm going to limit addressing them anymore until we get to the point. For us, you see how important this is? We ain't even got to the kicker yet. We ain't even got to the kicker as to how and what they protest about, quote unquote, Hebrew Israelism, and why they're approaching this, because it's so important for our salvation. It's so important for the fulfillment of bringing the kingdom of Israel back. Restoring the kingdom of Israel, what we do on those street corners is important. Let's keep reading, because we're going to be brought out of our graves, right? Read.
Verse 13, and ye shall know that I am the Lord when I have opened your graves.
We're going to know the Lord, right? Because we're not going to have to teach every man his neighbor saying, know the Lord. It says, and ye shall know that I am the Lord when
I have opened your graves, O my people.
And what?
And brought you up out of your grave.
Y'all ever seen anybody being brought up out of the grave? Nope. Keep it 1,000. They didn't even see Christ being brought out of his grave. They seen him after he was out, but they didn't see him being brought out of that grave. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't play that game, because they say, see, Christ came up out of his grave. No, when the Lord has brought these bones out of their graves is when the people will know that has not happened. Right? Keep reading. But again, and I will, my bad. Verse 14. Go ahead.
Verse 14, and shall put my spirit in you.
And listen, and when I open your graves, and shall put my spirit in you. You see how these things collectively go together? That's when we're going to know the Lord. Read.
And ye shall live, and I shall place you in your own land.
You see how that goes together with being placed in our own land as well? All of these things happening, they're not going to happen, sequentially. No, these things are happening all in one go. It's not going to happen in the year 300 BC, then another one's going to happen in 600 AD, and then another one's going to happen in 1500, another one's going to happen in 2300. It's not going to happen like that. These things are going to be clear, but watch this. The indicator is, once these things happen, that's the indicator that we know the Lord, because we have seen the things that he's doing. Read.
Then shall you know that I, the Lord, have spoken and performed it.
Then shall you know. Read.
Saith the Lord.
Saith the Lord. Go ahead.
Verse 15. The word of the Lord came again unto me, saying.
Saying what?
Moreover, thou son of man, take thee one stick.
Take thee one stick. This is the kicker here. Then the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, again, saying what? Take thee one stick. Go ahead. And write upon it. For what?
For Judah.
For Judah. Now we're talking about the southern kingdom. One stick is going to be for the southern kingdom. And who else?
And for the children of Israel.
And for the children of Israel, his what?
His companions.
Which means what? Levi and Benjamin. We got a stick representing Judah, the southern kingdom, the house of Judah, and then the children of Israel, his companions, right? Levi, Benjamin, the 3 tribes that made up the southern kingdom. Keep reading.
Then take another stick.
Then take another stick. Go ahead.
And write upon it.
And then write upon it for what?
For Joseph.
For Joseph, which is Ephraim. Go ahead.
The stick of Ephraim.
And
for all the house of Israel.
And for all the house of Israel, his what?
His companion.
So that is going to be from Manasseh on down through Issachar, Asher, Naphtali, Reuben, Gad, Zebulun, you know, all of the other tribes that make up the northern kingdom, right? So we got 2 sticks representing the southern kingdom, northern kingdom. Read.
And join them one to another.
And then join them one to another. Christians, what do you guys do with this? When do you guys ever take the stick of the house of Judah, the southern kingdom, and the stick of the house of Israel, the northern kingdom, and bring it together into one stick? When do you guys do that? Or are you going to say, oh, Christ is the stick? But let's see. Watch this. Let's see if Christ can be the stick. Read.
It says, and join them one to another into one stick, and they shall become one in thine hand. And when the children of thy people shall speak unto thee, saying, wilt thou not show us what thou meanest by these?
Wait. When the hell has anybody ever looked at Jesus Christ and asked about the 2 sticks of the nation of Israel? When? Never. But guess what they do? When they walk by these Negroes and Hispanics and Native Indians, when we're out on the street, this is literally what they do. They literally walk by and say, what do you mean by this? What does this mean? What are you guys doing here? And this makes everything that we do so important, because it is what's necessary to bring about the salvation to our people. Christians don't do this. They ignore this and they just throw it on Christ and say, well, I'm just going to teach Christ. And then it just encompasses all of this together. No, it does not. Keep reading.
Verse 19, say unto them, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel his fellows, and will put them with him, even with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in mine hand. And
they're listen, and then not only are we going to do this in just a stick, but the people are going to be gathered together and be brought one in they're going to be brought together as one in one hand. Read.
And the sticks whereon thou writest shall be in thine hand.
In thine hand. Before what?
Before their eyes.
What is their stick? The stick is going to be in the children of Israel's hand before their eyes. When did this happen? Explain this. Explain yourselves. Take the chains off the door, Mr. Sims. Take the chains off the door. Take the chains off of your mind and understand what this Bible is telling us and telling you about who you are. Key point coming in verse 21, right? Read verse 20 again.
Verse 20, and the sticks whereon thou writest shall be in thine hand.
And the sticks wherein you write shall be in your hand. Go ahead.
Before their eyes.
In front of their eyes. And when they come upon us and they ask us what these things mean, what should we tell them? Read verse 21.
21, and
say unto them what?
Thus saith the Lord.
We have to tell these people, thus saith the Lord God. That's what we do. We're not telling them, thus saith Paul, which had the Holy Spirit, who was touched by Christ, who therefore then has the authority. That's a lot, man. That's a lot. It's a stretch. We tell them, thus saith the Lord God. Right? Go ahead.
It says, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen.
I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen. Go ahead.
Whither they be gone.
Read.
And will gather them on every side. And bring them into their own land.
This is talking about Jesus? This is Christ? Okay, right. Because he called Christ from Egypt, right? This is what they're saying. He called Christ from Egypt, right? So all of these Israelites, these children of Israel that are called from among the heathen, whether they be gone, God is going to gather them on every side and bring them into their own land. This is Jesus. Let's see if it matches. Let's see if it makes sense that this is Jesus. Go ahead.
Verse 22, and I will make them one nation.
Wait. Christ is going to be made one nation. Huh? Okay, let's keep reading. Go ahead.
And I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel.
So Israel is going to be made a one nation in the land of Israel. Go ahead.
And one king.
And Christ is going to be king to himself. Christ is going to be, and one king shall be what?
King, Salah.
And one king, we'll start with
one king shall be king to them all.
One king is going to be king to them all. If anybody does not know who this king is, this king here is Christ. This king is Yahushai. Yahushai is going to be king to himself. Please tell me that this makes sense, man. This is stupid at this point. Go ahead.
And they shall be no more two nations.
Christ is no longer going to be two nations. Go ahead.
Neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms anymore.
Because Christ was once divided. Stop. He literally says it's important that you guys look at it as Christ is Israel. And this is the very question that Sarge asked him. If the new covenant says the northern and the southern kingdom will be brought back together, that means, and what does that look like today? That means you guys must identify who they are today and see the unification of them to know that we are in fact in the new covenant. But guess what? On their side, they just ignore what's written. They ignore the Bible and the records, and they just throw it on the back of Christ. But with us, we're literally out here exercising the very thing that Ezekiel the 37th chapter said we should do, and we said would happen. We clearly see ourselves joining together little by little. We see ourselves taking on back this identity, back on that courage, that love, that faith. But we still don't have the breath, because the breath is prophesied to be put in us. But we don't have that yet, and we're still dealing with idolatry, and we are still dealing with shame. Why? Hold your precept. Go back to Ezekiel 37, because we're right here. We can't abandon this now, right? Read verse 23. This is what we read during the debate, or the discussion, excuse me, and it was never addressed. Remember, I asked them, how do you guys reconcile? How do you guys address? Neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms anymore. Neither shall they be divided into two nations anymore at all. How do you address it? They did not answer the question, but they did to the best of their ability. It just didn't make any sense. Read verse 23.
Verse 23. Neither shall they defile themselves anymore with their idols.
Neither shall they have that shame anymore. But if people are still out here suffering and dealing with idolatry, if people are still out here suffering from that, then that means we cannot be in the new covenant, because that means that Christ has not been made that king. Christ has not brought the nations back together. Neither has he reconciled the two kingdoms back together. Although we are joining ourselves together, we're building ourselves, we still have not done it. Listen, and we're still out here with the two sticks being brought together into one, where we are presenting it before the eyes of our people, where they're asking us, what does it mean? And we have to explain this to them. What do you mean? What does it mean by these? You're going to have this one stick in your hand before their eyes, and you shall say unto them, what? I will take, the Lord will, we speak unto them, thus said the Lord. The Most High is going to gather us from all the places where we were scattered because of our wickedness, because of our punishment, because of how we were defiled, because of how we were put to shame, because of how naked we are. The Lord is going to gather us from those places. He's going to bring us together and put us into the land that he promised to our forefathers. And then we're no longer going to be divided anymore. We're going to be one nation, one fold, with one shepherd and one king. This is a prophecy that's going to happen. Until that happens, you can't say we in the new covenant, one. And two, you damn sure can't say the reunification is just simply Jesus. You cannot, this does not make any sense. Finish verse 23.
It says,
start from the top, because this is something that they were acting confused about when we read it to them. Read.
Verse 23. Neither shall they defile themselves anymore with their idols,
nor
with their detestable things.
We're not going to be defiled with idols. We're not going to be defiled with detestable things. Read.
Nor with any of their transgressions.
We are not going to be defiled with any transgressions. Vocab and their side tried to tell us that you could still sin in the new covenant, but as long as you don't leave and depart away from God, then it still is a fulfillment of it. Oh, because see, Paul talks about how they were no longer defiled with idols. You got to understand something. The Pharisees didn't have a problem with idolatry. Shouts out to Sarge, man. We was up all night, damn near last night, going over this. There were many different types of transgressions that we had. Amongst the Jews that lived in Judea during the time of Christ, they didn't have a problem with idolatry. They didn't have a problem with shrines and things like that being set up with idolatry. What did they have a problem with? What was the type of sins that they were committing? Traditions of men was definitely one of them. What was another one?
Selling in the temple.
Defiling the temple. What was another one? No, because remember, that's what they were trying to accuse Christ of. So now that we're talking about accusations, what were they doing? Not only slandering, but what? Bearing false witness. But another one, they were perverting judgment. They were perverting judgment through the traditions of their forefathers, right? They were also doing what? Not taking care of the poor, the fatherless, and the widow. Remember, I went into this some time ago. See, these are the type of things that they were suffering and having issue with in Judea. But is that type of sin limited to what Israel was going through? No, because it was then the Gentiles that lived outside of Judea that was all off into idolatry. The people that Paul went to go speak unto, those who either again was teetering the fence of their identity and their responsibility towards the Most High with being Israelites, or they were those that had completely stepped away from the tenets of following the law, which we see during the time of the Maccabees, where we voluntarily left away going and making covenants with the heathen to go and follow after their gods and setting up the place of exercise. That's the place of worship. The place of the rituals where they would perform to these other gods. Some of us was suffering from idolatry. Some of us was just suffering from just being poor brothers and poor Israelites. Not poor as in monetarily, poor as in conduct. We were just being bad human beings. We were just being bad Israelites. It stretched so far across the board of wickedness. And we see all of these different things being addressed in sequential order as the New Testament plays out. Doing what? Bidding to the marriage. As they were bidding to the marriage. When I'm seeing this, when I'm reviewing the tape and I'm seeing this, I'm like, what we do is so important. It's so important. And again, look at how people react to us teaching who we are. It pisses people the hell off for me to teach this so-called Mexican man that he's an Israelite from the tribe of Issachar. It pisses them off. It pisses them off for me to teach this so-called black man, this so-called American Negro here, that he's from the tribe of Judah. It pisses them off that I teach this so-called Haitian man that he's from the tribe of Levi. Man, that's stupid. That's irrelevant. That's dumb. That chart is full of SHR, you know what? And why does it bother you so much about who I say we are when you guys say it really don't even matter? If it doesn't matter, then why are you tripping that I'm saying that we're Israelites? Because there's a demon. There's an evil spirit out there that's trying to do what? Psalms 8. Somebody give me Psalms 83rd chapter. Somebody give me Psalms 83rd chapter. This is literally what the Bible told us to watch out for, because this is what these nations were having ambition to do to us. Go ahead.
Psalm chapter 83, verse 1. Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace.
Because what happens when God keeps his silence, when God does not let his countenance and his face shine upon us, and he turns his back unto us, these other nations are allowed to do this type of stuff to us. Keep not thou silence, O God, and hold not your peace, please. And guess what? Another word for another phrase for new covenant is what? Covenant of peace. Just look up, just keyword covenant of peace, and you start to see all of the different times that God is promising peace to the Israelites and literally labeling it the covenant of peace. Go ahead.
Hold not thy peace and be not still, O God, for lo, thine enemies make a tumult.
The enemies of Israel are in this uproar. Read. Listen, the same way they're in this uproar when we're out here teaching this about the two sticks that are brought together, Northern Southern Kingdom and their reunification. They are pissed about that. Read.
And they that hate thee have lifted up their heads.
Your enemies are in an uproar, and the people that hate you, they are proud. Read.
They have taken crafty counsel against thy people.
But they take crafty counsel. They take this counsel in such a crafty way against our people. Read.
And consulted against thy hidden ones.
And consulted against the hidden ones. Read.
They have
hold on, excuse me. I can never overlook who those hidden ones are. Those are the women and the children. Listen, which is The women is the first line of defense, so to speak, with how they instruct and teach the kids. So if they're teaching our women and our women that it doesn't matter, then they're not going to make it a priority to emphasize to the children who they supposed to be in a responsibility they're supposed to live up to. Yeah, about Shem Yashar Barakatah Wata Wata to Shelly Burke. We appreciate you, sister, for your donation, right? This is literally what they're doing to us. And when we see this happening, playing out, you see how we don't have to ignore anything in this Bible? We can literally address and we can literally utilize every single part of it. When you get off into Christianity, you got to ignore this type of stuff. You read this and they say, I don't really know what it means, but we're beyond that because Christ came and fulfilled it and it just doesn't even matter anymore. Stop. You're wasting the records.
Yeah.
Let's get these scriptures and then you get your precept before we get back to Ezekiel 37. Go ahead.
They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones.
And consulted against our hidden ones, our women and children, those that we are supposed to be protecting, those are the ones that they are attacking. Read.
They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation.
Let us cut them off from being a nation. And they have literally done that. And then they turn around somehow after time goes by. They not only have cut us off from being a nation, read.
That the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance.
That the name of Israel may be no more remembrance. Not only have they did that, but now they've convinced us that even regaining that, it doesn't matter. When the prophecy says that that's what we would do. We would remember ourselves in the land of our captivity. We would call to mind what was supposed to happen to our people, right? The blessing and the curse. And the curse is a what? It's a sign that we were supposed to recognize and identify. But they're telling us that doesn't matter. I love God so much. I just love what the Lord is doing out in the earth. And in the same thought, in the same breath that it brings me joy, it brings me great sadness because I'm out here fighting with somebody about this.
Right.
No, it doesn't bring me sadness that I'm fighting with somebody. I'm fighting with my own people about this. Right. We ain't talking about vocab. Again, we utilize vocab as vocab utilizes us. To have the conversation, to try to expose things about or the flaws in the doctrine in order to convert people from both sides. I'm not mad. It was a what we call a quid pro quo. I play the game. Listen, I don't make up the rules. I just learn the rules and play to win. You see what I'm saying? So with that, with those of our people that takes vocab side, I have to fight with them why it's important for us to learn and to know who the Israelites are. They just breeze over this stuff. But then they'll turn around, they'll say that Israel is Christ, but then we'll emphasize the importance of the ethnic Jews, at least. They'll tell you how important they are and the role that they play, but I thought it doesn't matter anymore. I thought you have to, in order to be a true Jew, you had to be one inwardly. And this is where we pose the question to a vocab, not vocab directly, like it's limited to him, but a vocab that takes its position. When do you go and challenge that these Jews over in the land right now are not true Jews? You don't. This is one reason why people have this issue. I personally don't think that people should make that big of a deal about it, but it's definitely a relevant question. Why don't you pose this contention with the Jews over in the land right now and tell them they are not true Jews because they are not one inwardly? You don't say that, right? Keep reading. They have said,
Verse
come,
5.
let us cut them off from being a nation that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. Read.
Verse 5, for they have consulted together with one consent that they are confederate against
They've
thee.
consulted together with one consent that they are confederate. They're against us. They're against us. So not only was it spoken of to, no, this is a perfect example, right? When we see this in the world today, is that a fulfillment of prophecy that no. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that when we see it in the world today, this is a direct fulfillment. It just means when we see it today, the Bible had already told us about it, and that never changed. It never changed because the Lord has not came and corrected these things yet.
Israelites are still suffering from this. Their ability, their opportunity, their access to even fulfill such a prophecy is a punishment of the old covenant. If this is still happening now, then that means we're still under this old covenant, because the punishments of the old covenant are still being enacted. The punishments are still being enacted. So how can we be under a whole new covenant when the old covenant punishments haven't even exhausted yet? Because the old covenant punishments being exhausted is predicated on the northern and the southern kingdom being reunified and coming back into the Most High, returning unto the Lord God with all of our heart, with all of our soul, so he can gather us from all of the places that he scattered us. And then what? And then he can turn these curses upon the heathens. That's the portion of the new covenant that has punishments, but none of them are for the children of Israel. Go ahead. That was it on the songs. That was pretty much it on Psalms 83. Get your presets, whatever anybody had, before we get back to
I got two.
Before we get back to Ezekiel 37.
Book of Nehemiah chapter 4 and verse 7. But it came to pass that when Sanballat and Tobiah and the Arabians and the Ammonites and the Ashdodites heard that the walls of Jerusalem were made up and that the breaches began to be stopped, then they were very wroth and conspired all of them together to come and to fight against Jerusalem and to hinder it. Nevertheless, we made our prayer unto our God and set watch against them day and night because of them.
What was that point she was bringing out there?
So just it kind of goes into Psalms 83 that it makes them upset when we come together and build.
Oh, correct. It pisses them off, and it talks about also dealing with Daniel 9, right? The prophecy of Daniel, the 9th chapter, where it goes into the people being upset that we were back in the land, the people that were troubled. Let me get it real quick.
How does vocab deal with the fact that we're not in our land? What's his response to that?
I don't know. Again, I haven't gotten there. And again, stuff like this, when you got the guy in front of you, you're supposed to get all of these questions out, so at least you can go back and piece it together. And most of the time, we're so hell bent on trying to cut this person and trying to make them look bad, when we should just be doing our best to get as much information from them as we can, So it's not always about cutting, at least for me, not anymore. Watch this. Okay, Princeton in the city, scattered, and therefore the Lord and the one desolate and shall confirm the cut 1 week. And finish transgression, make reconciliation, bring a last and instead of division, the prophecy, holy one is not therefore go for the command to restore the bill. Prince every 7 weeks through score, street shall bid again, even in troublous times. I think that's what it was, even in troublous times. Yeah. So in Daniel 9 and 25, it says, know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah, the Prince, shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again and the wall, even in troublous times. And that troublous times is talking about when people, the heathens, saw that we were back in our land, rebuilding Jerusalem up, and they got upset. So it also goes into what you just brought out there. When they see us unifying and rebuilding, it pisses these people off. Right. And again, since this is something that is ordained by the Most High, their spirit that is contrary to that does not compare to the Lord's. So, they'll never be able to withstand. They'll never be able to stop what the Lord has already put in store and got the ball rolling with, right? Put in play, so to speak. Go back to Ezekiel 37.
The book of Ezekiel, chapter 37 and verse 23. Neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions.
But what?
But I will save them out of all their dwelling places.
Here's a key point.
Every time we talk to Christians, we say, well, what is salvation? And we go to Luke, the first chapter. We must start to qualify with Ezekiel, the 37th chapter, and anywhere else where it directly speaks about salvation being predetermined in prophecy is to be gathered from the places where we were scattered. That is salvation. We can solidify it in Luke, the first chapter, but places like here, but I will save them out of all their dwelling places. Where? Keep reading.
Wherein they have sinned.
Where they have sinned. Go ahead.
And will cleanse them.
And will cleanse them. Our salvation is being gathered from the places where we were scattered, where we were transgressing, where we have these places of exercise, these shrines, these altars dedicated to these idols, being defiled. And it doesn't necessarily say idolatry. It says wherein they have sinned. So again, it could be somewhere else where we might not be all off into idolatry, but we might be adulterers. We might be murderers. We might be sorcerers. We might be into all type of wild, crazy stuff. Again, we might just have an evil eye towards our brother. We might have an evil eye towards our wife, towards our children, where we would leave them. All of these things where this is happening, God is going to gather us from those places, and he calls that salvation. Go ahead.
So shall they be my people, and I will be their God.
Keep reading.
And David, my servant, shall be king over them.
And David is going to be that king. We understand that it's talking about the Davidic, through the Davidic line, right? The Davidic covenant, right? The Davidic covenant is dealing with Christ sitting upon the throne, right? Out of his bowels will his son or his offspring sit upon the throne. Bring your precept.
Book of John, chapter 10 and verse 11. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep.
The good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep, right? Go ahead.
But he that is an hireling and not the shepherd, whose own the sheep are not, seeth the wolf coming, and leaveth the sheep and fleeth, and the wolf catcheth them and scattereth the sheep. But that was just an example.
Yeah, dealing with the shepherd, right? Go ahead.
It says, and they all shall have one shepherd, and they shall also walk in my judgments and observe my statutes and do them.
Watch this. And they can't be Christ, right? Which they're saying they is clearly Israel, that they can't be Christ. All shall have one shepherd if Christ clearly says he's the shepherd. There is a juxtaposition and a clear-cut difference between the two. If we just take their explanation and plug it into the Bible, we will always have success. Just be patient. Go ahead.
And they shall dwell in the land that I have given unto Jacob my servant.
And they shall dwell in the land that I have given unto Jacob my servant. Go ahead.
Wherein your fathers have dwelt.
And
they shall dwell therein. Even they and their children and their children's children forever.
Listen, you see how it starts talking about descendancy? You see how it starts talking about bloodline? Their children, and their children's children. This is a bloodline. This is an ethnic group of people that we're talking about here. Read.
And my servant David shall be their prince forever.
Forever. Go ahead.
Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace.
Didn't we just mention that this phrase, the covenant of peace? This covenant of peace is a synonymous term with the new covenant. I will make a covenant of peace with them. Read.
It shall be an everlasting covenant.
Which is an everlasting covenant. Go ahead.
With them, and I will place them and multiply them and will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore.
Sounds like Deuteronomy 28, 1-14. The blessings. Go ahead.
My tabernacle also shall be with them. Yeah, I will be their God.
It says, my tabernacle also shall be with them. Now we're dealing with third temple, right? Now we're dealing with third temple here. None of this stuff is even close. Oh, but see, they get to just say, oh, I mean, it started. I mean, it just hasn't been consummated. It hasn't been completed. It hasn't end. Teleos, right? The end. Go ahead.
It says, I will be their God, and they shall be my people.
Watch this. Now read verse 28. Watch this. And then what's going to happen?
And the heathen shall know that I, the Lord, do sanctify Israel.
These people that they sit here and say is included into our salvation is supposed to know and understand something because of what God does to Israel. How are these heathens going to know this when they're supposed to be burning in hellfire? forevermore. How? Hold that before we even finish. Before we even finish. Because the heathens are going to do something else too.
It also doesn't make sense if the heathen are be burning in hellfire, but then the believers of the heathen are in Israel, then who are we doing it in front of?
Say it again. If the heathen, right?
If the heathen that don't believe are burning in hell, but then the believers of the heathen are a part of Israel.
Are a part of Israel. So what the brother's saying is, if the heathens that don't believe are going to be burning in hellfire, but the heathens that do believe are now a part of Israel, go ahead. Then who are we doing this in front of? Who's the audience that's supposed to be the spectators of the marvelous and wondrous works of the Lord, right? And there's plenty of scriptures that speak about that, like literally the Lord performing these things in front of the heathen before their eyes. Hold your precept. Watch this though. Give me Micah 4:2.
Book of Micah, chapter 4, verse 2. And many nations shall come and say, come, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord.
These heathens shall say, after all of this is established, after the third temple is resurrected, right? Where here it says, my tabernacle also shall be with them, the children of Israel. The tabernacle cannot be up and, or excuse me, these heathens, these nations cannot do what they're planning if the tabernacle is not up. I'm going to explain why. Ezekiel 37:27, my tabernacle also shall be with them. Yeah, I will be their God and they shall be my people. Go ahead, read Micah 4:2 again.
Micah chapter 4, verse 2. And many nations shall come and say, come, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord. Into the house of the God of Jacob.
Into the house of the God of Jacob. That's the tabernacle, read.
And he will teach us of his ways.
But wait, I thought it says that you should teach no more any man to know his brother. I mean, to know the Lord. Because it's specific to the children of Israel. And then these heathens, these other nations, who's going to look and see the salvation of the children, and the children's children's children, and all of their glory. They're going to see that and they're going to say, man, this God is something swell and amazing. Let us go up to the mountain of the Lord and he shall teach us of his ways. This is after the third temple is established. So it's got to be something specific to a people, which again, if the first covenant had been faultless, there's no place to seek for the second. The second covenant is there to reverse all of the consequences and punishments that the first covenant brought upon the covenant people, the covenantal people, right? Go ahead.
Come.
Start back and he will teach us of his ways. Go ahead.
And he will teach us of his ways. And we will walk in his paths. For the law shall go forth of Zion. And the word of the Lord from Jerusalem.
This is not in Jesus Christ, guys. This will be in Jesus Christ's kingdom, but this is not in the first initial incarnation of Jesus Christ when he walked the earth and people are just going to look at it from there. No, stop it. Stop it. When Christ is set his kingdom upon the mountains of Israel and the tabernacle of the Lord is established with Israel, then these other nations shall go and flee and flock and flow unto Israel, and they shall worship the Most High through Israel, through Christ and his kingdom. It's crazy. Brother Jay says, he says, pop quizzes every time they come to the temple. Hey, listen, let's see if you know something, man. All right, give me the 10 commandments right now. Or you die. Or or just get out of here now. All right. In order to enter in is a quiz. But it says the same thing in Isaiah, the 2nd chapter and the 3rd verse, and you have a precept?
Yeah, I think he has one too.
Bring your precept, Idar.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5, from the top. It says, then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness before the face of such as have afflicted him and made no account of his labors. When they see it, read, meaning it's going to be happening before these heathens' eyes. When they see it, they what? They shall be troubled. They're going to be troubled. Why? With terrible fear. With fear. Go ahead. and shall be amazed at the strangeness of his salvation.
They're going to be amazed at how strange the salvation is. Read.
Far beyond all that they look for.
Far beyond all that they look for. Go ahead.
And they repenting and groaning for anguish of spirit.
They're repenting and groaning for anguish of spirit because now they're scared, right? That fear has come upon them. Read.
Shall say within themselves, this was he whom we had sometimes in derision.
These are the men that we had in derision. Who knows what derision means? We hear these words a lot. I think contextually we can understand what they mean, but who knows what derision means? These are the people that we had in derision. Derision means contemptuous, ridicule, or mockery, right? And here's the thing. This is what everybody's been saying about vocab. Why are you sitting with him? He's always mocking us. He's always mocking the teaching. He's always mocking the prophets. He's always mocking the doctrine. And quite frankly, he definitely does. He mocks the fact that we say that we're Israelites. Oh, you have no way, but you don't even have no way of proving that. Hey, remember he brought up being hubris, right? You had a precept? That was it, Adar?
It says, this was he whom we had sometimes in derision.
This is the man that we once mocked, and he was right the whole time. Wow, go ahead.
And a proverb of reproach.
And this is a person that we had in reproach. Not only did we mock him and scoffed, we even persecuted him. Go ahead.
We fools accounted his life madness.
We thought that they were bugging out. Read.
And his end to be without honor.
And we never would have thought that what you were doing was an honorable thing to bring you such salvation. You guys were so hateful. You guys were so mean and rude and all of these different things. How? Go ahead.
How is he numbered among the children of God?
How is this guy? How did he get the part, Lord? I thought I was the one in the fruits of the Spirit. Read.
And his lot is among the saints.
Uh-huh.
Therefore have we erred from the way of truth, and the light of righteousness have not shined unto us, and the sun of righteousness rose not upon us.
How do we not get a part of that blessing? I've been out here spreading love and teaching what I felt like was a true gospel, and watch this. Tone 76. I agree 1,000%. He says both sides are guilty of mockery. Absolutely. I don't disagree with that at all. That's why I'm not mad at vocab. Vocab is supposed to mock us. Vocab, for the most part, hasn't done anything to Israelites that Israelites have not done to Christians. That I'm aware of. If somebody can point out something that vocab has done that we have not done, like in terms of shots thrown or attempts to discredit and to belittle or to diminish from their point of view and the validity and the strength of it, I mean, we've done the same thing. So he's right. Listen, both sides are guilty, but guess what? Only one side is going to be called out in the end of it all. Because I'm supposed to burn down their images and tear down their strongholds. So one is actually doing the work of the Lord. One's actually fighting against the Most High. Go ahead.
It says, we worried ourselves in the way of wickedness.
We weary ourselves in the way of wickedness. Go ahead.
Yea, we have gone through deserts where there lay no way.
That was it on that. Get your precept.
The book of Zechariah, chapter 14 and verse 16. And it shall come to pass that every...
Hey, the brother Israel Grace says, I'm highly hilarious. Dead ass. Like, I'm talking about, call it what you want to. I crack myself up. So yes, I love the type of mockery that we have. And again, when it's against you, hey man, white boys got some pretty good jokes sometimes, man. Give credit where credit is due. Just don't let it affect you like that. Either you have what it takes to jab back or you don't. You know what I mean? Bring it out.
Book of Zechariah, chapter 14 and verse 16. And it shall come to pass that every one that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the feast of tabernacles. And it shall be that whoso will not come of come up of all the families of the earth.
Of all the families of the earth, right? Not the Israelites, but of all the families of the earth, those who do not come up and keep the feast, read.
Unto Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts.
At this tabernacle that God is going to establish in the midst of his people Israel, read.
Even upon them shall be no rain.
Shall be no rain. Go ahead.
And if the family of Egypt go not up and come not and have no rain, there shall be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite the heathen.
The Lord is going to smite these heathens that do not observe and uphold his judgment, statutes, and commandments. Go ahead.
Right. That come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. This shall be the punishment of Egypt and the punishment of all nations that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles.
So how are these nations a part of Israel when clearly in the kingdom, as they're following God and keeping the commandments, they're still being identified as other nations? It doesn't align, and it does not plug in well to the Bible. Bring your precept.
Look at Isaiah chapter 60, verse 10. And the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls. And their king shall
these strangers are supposed to be in the lake of fire burning forever right now, and in hell. Yes, I think they deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell. I will rain down tyranny. Bring it out.
And their king shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee.
These are clearly talking about non-Israelites in the kingdom having a position, having a job and a responsibility, and it has nothing to do with them being Israelites. It has everything to do with them serving Israelites. So we don't make these statements for no reason. We don't make these statements to be mean. We make these statements because God has already told us about this. Let's get Ezekiel 37 and finish that verse out.
Book of Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 28. And the heathen shall know that I, the Lord, do sanctify Israel.
These heathens are going to know that God sanctifies Israel. Read.
When my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them forever.
When the sanctuary of God is set up, third temple, in the midst of Israel, in the mountain of the Lord, in Jerusalem, forevermore, where all these other nations are going to flow unto us, flow unto Jerusalem, and serve the Most High through the temple that the Israelites operate and run. This is why Ezekiel 30, the 37th chapter, is arguably one of the most important chapters in the Bible. And I would love, Vocab, if you're out there, please just do a video going point for point through the entire chapter of Ezekiel, the 37th chapter, and explain to us verse by verse, line by line, what this stuff means, as we just did today. And tell us how Israel is Jesus, please. And if you don't do it, and there's another Christian watching, how about you do it? Somebody explain to us what this means, so that, listen, because if you love us and you don't want us to burn in hellfire, then you'll correct us and not allow us to go further on into madness and destruction. It's a sincere question. This is our take and our stance on it, and this is what we believe. It's not divisive. It's not manipulative. It's not just as a cop-out. This is why we feel the way we do. Break it down, show us where we're in error, and we can maneuver from there. All praise to the Most High. Now, somebody asked me a question. Get Ephesians 5 and read 3 and 4. Square pegs and round holes. Beautiful. I always say that. I say, stop trying to force a circular block into the triangular hole. Look at the back of it as well. The jump man is not even the same color, bro. No, like the tab isn't the same. And no, turn it around, both of them. The tab and the jump man color. No, on the back, sir. You can't see the back if it's facing me. I'm saying, boom. So you see how that shit is like, damn. Shit. It's not even close, bro. That's crazy. They don't know your face. Let me put on. Let me see. Don't ever get caught, man, with the fugazi here. They don't know where it came from. Nobody know where it came from. Bring it out.
It's the book of Ephesians, chapter 5 and verse 3. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becometh saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks.
My bad. I wasn't even there. Read it again.
Book of Ephesians, chapter 5 and verse 3. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness,
read,
let it not be once named among you as becometh saints.
read,
Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks.
Right. I'm not understanding what the question was. So whoever asked that, yeah, funny. Yeah, that it was Allah Alu Akbar. Alu Akbar. Yeah, what were you trying to figure out about that? It seems pretty clear. These things aren't convenient for you, so you know. Read verse 5.
Verse 5. For this ye know, that no whoremonger, nor unclean person, nor covetous man, who is an idolater, hath any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and of God.
See what I'm saying? These people don't have any place in the kingdom of God. So, the whoremonger, unclean person, covetous man, idolater. I think this is pretty clear. I wasn't really sure what you wanted me to explain about that. I don't have any further explanation than what it says. But this is so funny. Listen, sometimes you guys are out here. This is a side note. You know, again, that was a completion of that lesson. Herbert Walker. No, I don't think we have a video going into why the Apocrypha was taken out. I don't have no video on that. You probably have to just search that. I'm not sure if any of the other branches or channels have them. But listen, man, y'all be out here trying to get these discounted J's, man. I just thought that this was funny because the brother's showing it. Boom. I mean, it's like it's not even close. Like you see how big the booty is on this right here, right? This is a big back. This is a big back dude right here, right? And this is the authentic pair. You see how it's a black jump, man. This is just clear. You see how this is cream color. This is like toffee caramel color. It's wild stuff, man. You know, it's two different colors, but you know, the brother got right. All right, so praise the Most High for that. All right, somebody said, "The fuck are those?" For real. Look at the big booty. This is a wide back right here. This is backed it. This is chiseled. But I just thought that was funny. Chinaman joints, but they still nice. But they clean though. You know what I mean? They clean. They ain't 20s, they 10s, but you keep them clean. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna bless a homeless person with these fugazi ones. You know what I'm saying? Get his big back to walk on. Somalis are from Ham. They are Hamites. He can get away with it in the wintertime. Yeah, because ain't nobody, people eyes is like that, huh? They squinting, trying to cut through the damn cold. I hear you, but this is what Jesus commissioned the apostles to go out and preach to all nations. Is this the gospel? Okay, so tone. Going and preaching the gospel to all nations is just as a result of all the Israelites being scattered to all of these nations. The gospel has to reach where the Israelites are in order to gather them back together. So it's literally that simple. It's very, very easy. And what I always tell Christians is, if the Bible did not tell us that the Israelites were scattered into all nations, then their position would make so much sense, right? But the fact that the Bible literally says that we are scattered in all nations is a clear indicator as to why Christ went and commissioned them to do that, according to what is known as the Great Commission. The Israelites are in all of these places. Go ahead.
The book of Micah, chapter 5 and verse 8. And the remnant of Jacob shall be among the Gentiles, in the midst of many people, as a lion among the beasts of the forest, as a young lion among the flocks of sheep.
My bad, read it again. I'm reading comments, my bad.
It says, and the remnant of Jacob shall be among the Gentiles.
The remnants of Jacob shall be among the Gentiles. Go ahead.
In the midst of many people, as a lion among the beasts of the forest, as a young lion among the flocks of sheep, who if he go through, both treadeth down and teareth in pieces, and none can deliver. So you see where we are. And again, that goes into what was commissioned and where to take this truth and take this information. Go to Tobit 13 as well. Somebody said, had a Christian asked me what makes Sakari the authority, and it sounds like brainwashing, Cap. Will you please address this?
What makes Sakari is not the authority. What makes the things we talk about authority is because we speak thus saith the Lord as the Bible tells us to. So again, if somebody is going to try to bring up what the disciples or what the prophets, what the apostles said, right? And nowhere in there does it say, thus saith the Lord. Matter of fact, Paul himself literally sets a difference between what the Lord said and then what he says. So if somebody wants to say, oh, well, why is Sakari the authority? Because we're speaking the authoritative scriptures. We're speaking the words that Christ submitted himself unto, that says, he claims not to abolish, but to fulfill what the prophets has said. So his mission is in line with what the prophet said, and what the prophet said is thus saith the Lord. Paul even himself says the things written aforetime was written for our learning, right? All scripture is given by inspiration of the Most High, and it's profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, and instruction in righteousness. Paul could not write that and be talking about his own writings. So we speak thus saith the Lord. That's what gives what we teach authority. It's not subject to Sakari, but anybody. If a Christian came and gave us the words of thus saith the Lord, they would have that same authority. The thing is that they just did not, or they do not, rather. What does the Most High speak in the New Testament? There is only one Lord, and that is Yah. Yes, there's one Most High. So, you know what I mean? Now, again, people always ask this question: where does the Most High speak in the New Testament? He speaks through Christ. Why do we give Christ that authority to say he's speaking as the Most High? It's a reason why we say this. We go back to our law. It is our law that literally tells us why we validate such a man. Somebody give me Deuteronomy 18. This will make it really easy. Yeah, read 17 and 18.
Book of Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 17. And the Lord said unto me, they have well spoken that which they have spoken. I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren.
Listen, and so the sister Jacqueline Bug says, Isaiah 43, 10 and 11 does not say that, try again. But here's the thing. Just tell me what Deuteronomy 18 and 18 means. So instead of just throwing random verses at me that you feel like counter what I'm saying that my understanding comes from Deuteronomy 18 and 18. So tell me what Deuteronomy 18 and 18 says and explain to me how that's not what we see in the scriptures, right? Or in the New Testament. Keep reading. We're reading it now, so you can listen, but go there and just tell me what it means in the comments. Go ahead.
I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren.
God said, I will raise up a prophet from among their brethren. Read.
Like unto thee.
Like unto Moses. Read.
And I will put my words in his mouth.
And God will put his words in his mouth. Go ahead.
And he shall speak unto them all that I shall command him.
And he shall speak all that God has commanded him. Read.
And it shall come to pass that whosoever will not hearken unto my words.
And if you don't, and then you see right there, it says, if you shall not hearken unto his words. He's saying that the context of this man that's going to be risen up from among the children of Israel, that's going to have the words of God. He says, if you don't listen to his words, read.
Which he shall speak in my name.
Which he will speak in the name of the Father. Go ahead.
I will require it of him.
The Lord says he has a punishment. You're going to be required to answer to him. So I don't want to run the risk of doing that. If you don't believe that who the world calls Jesus Christ is that, who we understand him, his true name to be Yahweh Shai, then tell me who you feel like it is. And if you don't feel like this prophet has came ever, then be prepared for another captivity that you have to go in, because this is also prophesied to happen before the coming of our great day where our kingdom is going to be established. That is not how you respond. Jesus Christ is not a prophet. That is speaking of all the prophets, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and Hosea. Cool. Christ came and spoke about them. Give me Luke 24. The point I'm making is this. You guys highlight where Israel are and who Israel are today. I asked I asked is what you're teaching the gospel that Jesus commissioned the apostles to preach to all nations. Yeah. Yes. To answer your question, yes. What we're teaching is the gospel that Jesus commissioned the apostles to preach unto all nations. Absolutely. Where does Jesus Christ say he's a prophet? He doesn't say he's a prophet. Does any of the prophets say that they're prophets? Where does any of the prophets say I'm a prophet? Like, I could be wrong. I don't know. I've never heard the prophet say, "Hey, I'm a prophet." So,
Didn't like Amos say, "I'm not the son of a prophet" or something?
no, Amos definitely said that. You got that? In what I call for?
Luke 24.
Yeah, get it.
It's the book of Luke, chapter 24, verse 44.
Uh-huh.
And he said unto them, these are the words which I spake unto you.
These are the words that Christ speaks unto you. Go ahead.
While I was yet with you.
While he was yet with you, read.
That all things must be fulfilled.
That all things must be fulfilled, read.
Which were written in the law of Moses.
Which were written in the law of Moses. So he's telling you what he's coming and talking about to fulfill. I am coming to you, talking to you about all the things written in the law of Moses, read.
And in the prophets.
And in the prophets. Go ahead.
And in the Psalms.
And in the Psalms, read.
Concerning me.
Concerning this prophet that will be raised up. So when you sit up and say, oh, where does it say? Where do you see conversation between him and the Most High? There's plenty of prayers in the New Testament that is as it's narrated. If you don't agree with that, then that's fine. But don't ask me to read these remedial questions as to say that it's as if it's not there, because when I read it to you, you're just going to go and find another question. You're doting about questions at this point, sister. All right. But you've been here for a while. Like, when did the switch up happen? Like, you've been rocking in the class, Jacqueline, for a long while. What's the deal? Ooh. For the record, the Messiah was the future, as in prophecy, right? Some of his last words were to the Most High. Listen, a lot of his words, it's not even like it's a difficult thing, right? But what's so funny is a prophet says and converses with the Most High. Jesus himself testified that a prophet hath no honor in his own country. Jesus expressed here, while in Samaria, he was a prophet, not honored in his own country. Hey, great point, born again Israelite. Great point. Great point. But you got to understand something, right? Declaring that you're a prophet does not make you a prophet, right? Matter of fact, keep reading in Deuteronomy 18. And this has got to be the last one. When I tell you I am holding a full bladder of liquids that I have to deplete. Okay? Who got that? Ugh. Magan Israel, I don't think that this sister's a Christian, though. This sister's not a Christian. Listen, Jacqueline has been in here for a while, many times. The switch up is wild. The switch up is wild to me. You know what I mean? She must got a new man. She must got a man or something now that's OT only. Say it again. Yeah. Start at 18 and then go down.
All right. Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 18, verse 18.
Okay, not you, just in general, right? I thought you were saying for the sister, but yeah, they will just run around the truth. Go ahead.
I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren, like unto thee, and I will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them all that I shall command them. And it shall come to pass that whosoever will not hearken unto my words, which he shall speak in my name, I will require it of him. Verse 20. But the prophet which shall presume to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak.
Any prophet that speaks a thing in God's name that he has not been commanded, go ahead.
Or that shall speak in the name of other gods.
Or those that speak in the name of other gods, read.
Even that prophet shall die.
Even that prophet shall die. Okay. So that's the way in which we can identify whether or not somebody is true or whether or not somebody is false and fake. Where is the due diligence found between Jesus Christ and the Most High? Okay, watch this. Read Deuteronomy 13:4.
Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 13, verse 4. Ye shall walk after the Lord your God and fear him, and keep his commandments, and obey his voice, and ye shall serve him and cleave unto him.
I don't know what the hell that has to do with the due diligence between Jesus Christ and the Most High. As far as what I have read, as far as what I have come across, Jesus Christ was one of the most devout men to the Most High God that this world has ever seen. So, yeah, again, sister, I don't know what your malfunction is, but your questions are unintelligible. And I'm not able to follow along with them. Hey, call me slow, but the Bible is pretty clear. Get into it and then maybe ask me some more direct questions. You're trying to ask me some questions, maybe to try to lead me into this direction that you think I'm going to fall into. I've been doing this. See, here's my thing. Listen, she's just throwing out scriptures. You didn't even address Deuteronomy 18:18. I mean, you just ignored that. So with that, we give all honor, glory, and praise to the Most High God. Abanawa Yahweh is his name. We do so in the name of his only begotten son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, real name Yahweh Shai. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. If you guys have it on your heart and within your spirit to donate to the cause and to the organization, all of our information is there. sicariisd. Lord willing, I'm going to have more or the rest of the New Covenant debate posted. With what you guys got in that first video, it's essentially just the same thing over and over again. That's really why I haven't posted it. I did want to do a point-for-point review on it. So, you know what I mean? It eventually will come out. If not soon, it will eventually come out. I'm a check with our leader, our chief priest, our Zarban lawyer, to see if he want to collectively do a response to it. But tone, no, we're not. If so, define the term world in Isaiah 45:17. In addition, can you read Isaiah 45:17 in other translations for us? No, I cannot. We are not in the New Covenant, and again, it's pretty clear. But feel how you want to feel. You can be one of those that say it started, but it ain't finished yet. The New Covenant will be established when the wedding happens. We're bidding to the marriage. We're bidding to the wedding. We are inviting people, and hey, cool deal. I have to urinate severely. So again, man, all praises. Appreciate everybody for coming through. If you've been having a two type of week, stay down, stay diligent, stay grounded, be faithful in the death, and blessings from the Most High and His Son to you. Shalom.